What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. I'm super excited to have the ladies that I have in here today, a couple difference makers, and excited to talk about creating content, helping you. We talk about being the difference quite a bit. How do you share your difference? How do you get yourself out there? I'm excited because Meaghan Murphy and Lori Murphy, a mother-daughter duo with Real Leverage Solutions, are in the studio with me today. And it's cool because we I've noticed that a lot of people I work with that are in my atmosphere are like, you got to check out Real Leverage Solutions. You got to check out the Real Deals, and all this stuff. So I've heard so many good things. And then I got to meet up with the ladies about a month ago and have a really cool conversation and hear their story a little bit. So I'm excited to jump in and talk about their story. So Meaghan, Lori, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
My pleasure. I heard it's the now third time that you've been in the studio. So
This is my third time in the studio. Yep. So it gets a little bit easier every time.
a little easier every time. Super awesome. This will be a nice, easy conversation.
My second, so.
Good stuff. So now it's getting to be a pro, right?
Exactly.
It's the consistency of doing things. We talked about that in boot camp this morning of, a lot of times in sales, for example, we avoid it. When I see a lot of people when they're in sales or they're in entrepreneurship and they have to then go do the sales, is that they find every reason to avoid and do other things than actually make that sale or do that thing. But it's so hard to then get into a rhythm. And I compare it to going to the gym, for example. So if you do that one hard thing, you do it once, you go out there and you do that hard thing and it was so hard and you don't go do it again. You wait for 3 weeks. You're now going and doing that really hard thing again. It's like working out. You go to the gym, you lift all the weights, you're super sore the next day. So you're like, I'm not going to go back. And 3 months later, you're going back to the gym for the first time again, and you're all rusty, all sore, starting all over again. Just get good at it, get consistent at it. I love how you said, I want to be on enough podcasts where I am consistent.
Yeah, that's absolutely my goal right now is just to do everything that scares me as much as possible. I'm not a big salesperson. That's why I have my sales director over here.
Yeah.
And she's great with those conversations, but I have had people asking me to teach classes and to do a lot more in front of crowd type of things. So I'm just all right, let me just do as many of these as I can so that I'm used to it. It's not new.
Yes.
And I can just sharpen my skill.
It's one of those things so I especially starting my business, and it was one of my goals to go out and do a lot of speaking, but I realized that going out and speaking and doing events was getting me a lot of clients. It was my way of getting out there and meeting people, but what better way to meet people than be on that stage and have that conversation. And then now people are coming to me versus me going and chasing them if I'm going to a networking meeting, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so doing that, but then COVID hit. And all those opportunities are gone. Nobody's doing speaking events, and I did a lot of Zoom calls, but it's just different doing a Zoom call, doing a Zoom presentation than being in person, having that energy, standing up on stage. It's just different.
Yes.
And but it was this. The constant podcasting, the constant doing, these conversations, kept me telling my story, reshaping it, practicing it over and over again to when I had my first speaking engagement out in person, it wasn't having that nervousness. It wasn't oh my God, what am I going to do? It was just as natural because I've done over 100 episodes within that time.
Yeah, absolutely. We work with a lot of people doing social media, and everybody gets super nervous when the camera gets turned on. Even the most outgoing person, as soon as the camera's on, it's just a whole different persona, and it's always you just have to keep doing it. You just have to keep doing it. And then pretty soon it's the camera won't be there anymore.
It is, we were talking about that before here. It's we're going to go and have a conversation. It's going to be having coffee with a friend, except there's cameras all over the place. But you forget that they're there. You might get a little hot because the lights are on.
Yes. And I like that you compared it to working out, because that's my background is being a personal trainer and all that type of thing. And it really is. It's just doing your reps. And that's what Meaghan always tells people. You got to do your reps. And once you keep doing those reps, you feel like, oh, it's not as scary. I can do this. So when we're doing social media with people, they're so scared to do it. And then she says, just keep doing it. And then you feel comfortable. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, right?
I love it. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing with social media and Real Leverage Solutions. Tell me about what that's about.
Yeah, so we have a subscription, social media marketing subscription, and we started out doing it for realtors and lenders because that's kind of our, the world that we're in, but we've opened it up to small businesses as well. And, my big focus when it comes to social media is to do videos, to do reels, because that's really where you see results from social media. If you're trying to sell a business, especially if you're like in a service-based business, pretty much the only product you have to sell is yourself. So you need to be out there as much as possible, just getting people to remember you, to know you, trust you, like you. I'm sure you see this a lot, but like when people watch you a lot, they feel like they know you. Like it's, I've only met you once, right? But I've seen your podcast, right? So I feel like, okay, I know how this is going to go, that type of thing. So we want to get people's faces out there. So we do, for our clients, we do a meetup called Reels for Deals. We meet twice a month and we film reels. And, I bring scripts, I bring ideas, and, we have all the equipment and that kind of thing. But it's kind of a collaborative environment. So other people are there doing it. People can do them together. It's a networking opportunity. And the people who come consistently, they just get better and better and better at being in front of the camera, making those reels, coming up with their own ideas, speaking in their own voice, which is really the ultimate goal.
It's so ultimate. It's like breaking through that shell and getting people just to kind of be comfortable being themselves is a skill in itself.
Right. Yeah, well, that's the challenge. And what's really working on social media right now is storytelling and authenticity, right? I mean, that's always worked, but that's huge for this year. And that's what everybody's predicting is that's what's going to get your content up there and get it seen. So really, getting people to open up, to tell their stories, and not just their successes, like their failures too, or their challenges.
Yes.
That's huge. And that helps people connect with you. People don't realize, right? Well, I don't want people to know that. And it's like, no, they need to know that, right? Because they're going to, especially you're in real estate or lending or something like that. People are coming to you with their whole full financial picture, what's going on. Not all moves are good,
Yes.
So they need to be able to see that other side of you as well.
I would say that like out of all the stuff from my content is that I've been vulnerable and I'll share things that are very vulnerable. And because of that, people are ready to be vulnerable with me right out of the gate.
100%. Yeah. Because you made them feel comfortable and you broke down that wall.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love this because it literally, you see what I'm doing. We've talked about this and in just last week, I was meeting with the gentleman, Kevin Reedy.
Was like, hey, he comes to Reels
for Deals. You got to check out the Reels for Deals. And I was like, actually, they're going to be on the podcast on Monday. So he's super pumped to listen to the episode. But I'm not everywhere I'm going. People are like, you need to check them out. And I've been following your page. So it's like, I when we had our conversation a while back, I was like, I'm just so excited to talk with you guys and see, or to you ladies, and see what you're doing because it's again, people have such a hard time creating content. They have such a hard time getting vulnerable and sharing that story. I love the vulnerable stories, the failures. And when I sit down with clients, they're like, they're telling me this amazing story. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
You can relate.
Let's share that. And they're like, no way could I ever share that. It's like, no, that is the magic right
that's
there.
That's what you need to share.
That's what you need to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, for Reels for Deals, what's great too is we get people out into the community too. And so we're at different businesses and then we interview the owner of the business and they're not used to being in a video that either. So, but then they're so grateful when we edit it and send it to them and it's just one more touch for them and just showing our clients are out in the community. So it really works great with that. So.
That's another thing we really push. I think that's probably one of the things that most makes us stand out is we're super into hyper local content, right? And again, the type of businesses that we work with are usually service-based or, they're selling in a small area, right? So, people are so intimidated by social media, right? Well, I need to get 1 million views. I need to get all these followers. And it's like, well, not really, right? There's probably not 1 million people in Livingston County that are buying what you're selling, right?
Yep.
But we do need to find the people in the area that are, and that's where hyperlocal comes in. So we're at different businesses, we're shooting there, we're bringing people there, they're posting videos, we're making a video for them. Now it's like the whole community is coming together, right? And you'd be amazed, well, maybe you wouldn't, but when we shoot at a local business, then like months later, they'll be like, oh my God, so many people came in, or somebody ordered from us, or, just because they got out there.
Yeah. It's so cool. And even what I've heard from people that are going and taking part of these events is they're like connecting in building a bond and relationship by going out to each other's businesses, by supporting each other, by being part of this community where they're making videos together.
100%. Yeah. And again, it's just easier to do it with people, and we have, Kevin's a lender, right? And we have realtors. So we've had them make videos together. We have a home renovation guy. We had them make a video about a renovation loan they have, right? So build on other people's audiences. That's another really great way to do it.
How I landed here was the building off of audiences, right? And like I was going out and having these incredible conversations with people, and it was like, I wish that was on camera. Like, why didn't I get that on camera? Like every single time I leave, like, great conversation. I'm excited for this relationship. I'm excited for what I took away from it. But I wish I would have got that recorded, because that would be such amazing content. And then putting it on that platform where people are seeing it and being attracted by it.
Yeah, and just showing that you're supporting each other and just building each other up, because don't we do better if we build each other up? So that has been really great for us to watch, is how people in each, building each other's business up and just really connecting and networking together and figuring out a way that they can help their clients or their customers in a better way. So that's been really great for us too.
We honestly have the greatest clients of all time too. Like, this is one thing about, owning your own business and, choosing who you work with. It's like, I'm obsessed with our clients, and I want to see them succeed. And
Absolutely.
I want them to take it to the next level. So it's like always so much fun working with them, which is, huge.
It's huge. When we got here, we talked about how it's busy, but we were both kind of lit up by that.
Right. Good.
Because it's good busy, because when you're doing the work you love to do, when you're taking care of the people you love, it's not really work to me. I love doing it.
Right. And it's, I don't know if you feel this way, but it's like, if I wasn't doing this, I would find a way to do something like this. It's like, this is just what you would be drawn to.
Yeah. My coach a couple of weeks ago, I was in this group coaching program, and he wasn't working with me. He was working with somebody else in the group, and he had said something to the fact of that thing that you're doing with all your people, whether it's friends, family, your clients, whoever, that thing that you're doing for them for free. That's your superpower. That's the thing that you need to charge money for, because that's what you're doing. And it was thinking about all these conversations I was having with people, and I'd get done and I'd write them a post at the end, and send it to them. You told me this story, tell that story.
Yeah.
And then you go post
Giving
it and
them ideas,
crush it.
yes.
And it's but it's just the way I saw the world. I see you doing the same thing of seeing the world and being able to help them get that out there and then being lit up by it.
Yeah. We, actually, speaking of that, so, we do this one-on-one social media marketing for people, which is great. But we were talking about, opening it up to a wider audience. So we do have a course that we're going to be launching in April called the Social Media Glow Up. And it's funny you said the superpower thing, right? Because it's going to be a workbook, and, we're going to do some lives. But the whole concept is literally discovering what your superpower is and sharing it, right? So it's about, again, a lot of the questions are, what would you do? If you could do anything, what would you continually find yourself doing? If your brand had a personality, what would it be? That type of thing. Because a lot of times people don't realize it's their superpower until you make them start, looking closer and they realize, oh, this is a unique thing about me. And I can see it so clearly in my clients,
Yes, we bond in that. And the thing is, they think that is it's not a big deal.
No,
that's just a thing that I do really quickly.
No, 100. They're diminished. It's sometimes they want to create a new persona, and it's no, what you're doing is perfect. Just do more of you. That's what you need to be doing.
Yes.
Exactly.
I love it, because people think they've got to run and be somebody else.
Right.
And there's settle in to be more you.
And I think it's just changed that way to where authenticity is the most important thing, and people want to see that on social media. And people are afraid of that because you've always, I got to try to be somebody else. But being you is going to really stand out. And that's what we try to capture, because most of the time people are doing what they love, right? So we're trying to capture, especially we're working with entrepreneurs. So we're capturing their passion And once they feel comfortable in front of the camera, they're able to just show their passion and, talk about it. And that's what really makes us feel good.
Well, we bring scripts, to our Reels for Deals, or if I do a shoot with someone, I'll bring scripts because, you can't come empty handed and you got to sort of have like
an idea
of what you're going to talk about. But so many of our clients, they just do so well without a script, right? Because they get in their head and they're like, well, I got to say this perfectly. And I'm like, no, you don't. Talk about, this is your area of expertise, not mine, right?
Yeah.
Like, here's some bullet points, stick with, but no, you talk about what you know best. And once you let them fly free, all of a sudden they get excited. They're, then you're like, okay, well, we got 3 videos now out of this, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'll sit in front of them and I'm behind the camera and just have a conversation with them instead of everything's laid out for them. We just have a conversation just like you do.
Yep.
And next thing I know, they're just going on and on and on, where before they were trying to remember the script and you can see it. They're just wooden, So
Yes.
we're like, just talk about your passion. We do want to hit certain bullet points, so we'll give them a little framework, but then we just sit there and we talk to them, and those are the best videos.
Oh, there's like you get them like in their passionate talk.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and that just changes the game.
It does, and you see it.
Yeah, I always have the camera rolling pretty much when I'm
I love
filming.
it.
So
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "It's been on this whole time." Just in case you got excited.
You never know.
Yeah.
And then the thing is when they say that magical thing, they can't just say it again.
Right.
They were in like
Yes.
this passionate moment.
Right.
But once you nail that, once you capture that, you can now
Absolutely.
turn it into, like, they can now intentionally make sure that they're saying the right messaging. They're now,
Yes.
because like people are just like all over the place.
Yeah.
Once you can hone in on that superpower and like get them to realize, and now they're saying it, like say that over and over
Yes,
again.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so much of marketing is like 90% just saying the same thing over and over again in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. People make content for social media and they're like, well, this video didn't do well, or they're going to spend like hours editing it or worrying about it. And it's like, this is just a blip in the radar for most people, right?
Yep.
We're scrolling through. But we're going to say this like 20 more times in a different way, in a slightly different way, until it hits its mark.
Yep. Because you're not going to change the world in one post.
Well, no. And people, they say, what do they say? People have to hear something like 7 times
Yes,
or
7
7 different
times.
ways to have it sink in.
Yep.
And again, so people are scrolling in the morning, some are scrolling at night, some just started following you, some followed you, but then they forgot, so you got to just keep reaching out. You got to like just keep screaming from the rooftops pretty much.
It's consistency.
I was just going to say that, and that's what we always talk about. And that's hard for entrepreneurs sometimes as far as social media marketing, because they're wearing so many other hats.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
that's why we started this, and where we come in is trying to, just laying everything out for them so they can be consistent. We really get in depth with them. If they sign on with us to be one of our clients, we have a couple different steps that we do that really get in depth with their branding, their passion, what they want their voice to be, all that type of thing, who their ideal client is, so that we can create something that then they can just talk about their passion, but we've got it all branded to them. So
What are some of the struggles you see with your clients coming in creating content? Because people know that they gotta create content, right? They know that they gotta get themselves out there. They're coming to you for a reason. What are those challenges for them? Those roadblocks from stopping them, and why they come to you?
Well, one of the big things is how they look or how they sound, or I don't look good on film. There's a whole list of just silly things is one of the big challenges. We still have clients that we just struggle with to get them on film, because we will also do other types of posts, static posts, all these different things, and that's fine. But really, video is where it's at, and sometimes they struggle to get on just because how they look and that type of thing, not knowing what to say. So that's where we come in and just showing them, that they can create something that people can relate to. But also, Meaghan, you can talk more about like the hooks that you create and all that type of thing.
Well, I think, like you said, people are scared to be on camera. They don't like the way they look. That's like typical fears.
Yeah. It's a little voice.
We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a big thing people have a problem with, I think, is niching down. and speaking to their ideal client. And I think people are really scared that if I get really specific, then I'm going to miss out on this whole crowd of people, right? But really, the key and the secret is getting really specific.
Yep.
And people, well, I don't want to, turn this group of people off, right? But the thing is, like, that group of people probably wasn't going to buy from you anyways.
Absolutely.
And you need to say something that's so specific and so geared towards your ideal client that they feel like you're speaking directly to them. Now you have super fans, right? And really, you're better off with 1,000 super fans than a million followers who just don't really get what you sell or probably will never use you.
Absolutely.
So just getting people, and also people don't realize, like, your ideal client is probably you, right? I mean, your favorite person to probably work with is someone who's most like you. So it's not really rocket science, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I always challenge my clients or just, people to, when you're scrolling through social media, what makes you stop or what makes you hit like or what makes you comment, right? So a lot of times people say, well, I'm not getting any comments. And I'm like, well, what's the last small business you commented on, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Probably if they did, it was something really unique or, specific that they went, wow, how'd they know?
Yes. But they're watching. And I had that same thing. I was creating content and putting myself out there when I first started my business, and there'd be no reactions. And it's like, this sucks. Like I'm nobody. But then I'd go out and people would approach me and say, hey, I like that video. Keep posting those videos. I love that thing you said. I needed to hear that this morning.
Yeah.
And so it's that encouragement that people are watching. And it was a big light bulb of like the people that I'm speaking to are not going to be like, that's me. Like I'm in my head.
Yeah,
like,
we get so many of our clients that say, people recognized me, or I was at an event and someone came up and said, I saw you on these videos. And, it happens all the time. So yes, you might not be getting a lot of comments, but you're reaching the people you need to reach, and they're getting business from that. So that's the important thing. And like Meaghan always, she mentions to our clients, it's not about going viral and everything. Yes, that's great. You get more eyes on it. But are those the people that are really going to buy from you?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good every once in a while, but really you want to keep talking to those ideal clients. And that's why, she touched on that. We get so specific with them on their ideal client, and especially where we started, real estate agents, they get really nervous when we talk about that, because they're like, well, I'll take a first-time home buyer and a downsizer, and I'm not going to turn anybody away. We said, absolutely. It's not about turning anyone away. And people, if you're talking to the downsizer as your ideal client, first-time home buyer is still going to talk to you. It's just that in marketing, you've got to be specific. If it's generic, they're just going to scroll right by, and it's all about stopping that scroll, right? So how do we do that? We get really specific in our marketing.
Really specific. I have a client I just started working with, and she's in the home health industry. And I met with her last week or 2 weeks ago, and she was telling me, like, passionate, like, why she does what she does. And she'd worked for years in a nursing home and other home health companies. And she's like, this is just a standard of care where we don't look at elderly people and with dementia and Alzheimer's as people. We look at them as a patient, and we're not taking care of them to another level. And she got to a point, to your point, when you're talking, all of a sudden you're now passionate and you're sharing like this moment of genius. And she's like sharing this, I want to change the world. I want to change the way that we care for people. I want to, and great. Then she shows me her job description that she's putting out on Indeed. And I'm like, and it's not bad. It's a good, it looks good. She's like, what do you think? I'm like, it looks good. It looks like everybody else's.
Not that exciting, right?
Yeah.
Now, you told me you want to change the world.
Right.
Like you're on this mission to change the way that home health care is done and the way that we look at elderly people, period. You want to see people looking like people. If I was to create your job description, it would speak specifically into that, because I want someone sitting there reading that being like, I want to be on that mission. I've been saying this for years. Absolutely. I want to be a part of this. Like, and it might not even be people that are working in the nursing home. It might be people that have been taking care of their mom or their grandma or somebody in the family or somebody that they know that they're paying them to take care of them. That person is now passed on and they have open time. So it's just speak to your audience, be specific. She ended up hiring me. So literally I went home, like we had a meeting on Saturday, and I went home and I created a post for her, just a job description. And she's going through my agreement. I said, she's like, really? You'll help me do all this stuff? I'm like, well, here's the job description that I came up with for you. And she read it and she's like, where do I sign?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I posted that on her Facebook, and within 5 minutes, the perfect candidate messaged her and said, where do I sign?
That's
Like, where do
awesome.
I, she's like,
Yes.
where do I send my resume to? She's like, I want to be a part of this. And I'm like,
Right.
looking at her social media, and this person's like heart-centered, empathetic, like, all the stuff
They
that
could
they
feel the
take care of
passion.
people.
Yes.
I can feel that in them
Yes,
just from their social media presence. Who knows who they really are? But that message attracted them for
Right.
somehow.
Right. It stood out.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like she couldn't see her superpower, but you could.
Yes.
You could see
Yes.
like, and she probably thought, well, I looked at what other people are doing. I have to do something similar to what they're doing. And it's like, no, you don't.
No, because they don't care about changing the world.
What, right. And
That's
you're
your
not going to
passion.
change the world with the same post everybody else is doing, right?
Exactly. That's why I said her post wasn't bad. Like, if I was reading it, I'm like, that's a good post.
Yeah.
I've seen so many horrible job descriptions. This
Sure.
was good. This was on the above average side.
Right.
But
it wasn't
it didn't make
wasn't
me
her
tingle.
voice, right?
And I was looking at the resumes that are coming in. She's getting people that are working in the nursing homes and stuff like that. And nope. But
Yes.
it's an average. She's getting an average person.
Right. She wants that standout person that's passion is about taking care of.
We've got to find traits in people. We got to
Yes.
find people that really are empathetic and care and curious. And we're
Right.
finding traits of an individual that we can train the
Right.
skills to.
Yes.
But we need a certain person
Right.
that's going to come in and look at these people as people.
Exactly.
So, but it's that unique messaging.
Oh yeah, I see that with my clients all the time. And, I have one client who she's just the most amazing people person. She's a realtor, but she just cares so much about her clients, and she just puts together these like beautiful events, and you can just tell she really cares about what she's doing. And, when I go to do her post, she'll be like, well, I don't know. She always like her first instinct is always like water it down, and I'm like, no, like we need to be doing more of this because you're doing something very unique, and we need to make that pop. We need to say it, but it's always the first instinct to like water that down and go, well, maybe that's too much or.
Yep.
But then we do have clients that like too much. We have a client who wears the craziest clothes in the world, and he does renovations, and that is his signature. So we started.
Is that guy Segi?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She started following me on Instagram, and I
Yes.
watch his videos just because he's out there.
Absolutely.
I pull into that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So people recognize him, and he has gotten clients from all his videos. And we also do like outfit of the week and just different, because that's his signature, right?
Yeah.
That's his personality. He loves that. He's a fun guy. And so why wouldn't we play on that? So,
I've never met him, but I watched his
You feel like
content,
you know
and I
him.
feel like, and he's a fun guy.
he's a fun guy.
Yeah.
And that is authentically him. The stuff, if you watch those videos and go, well, is that really what yes, that is really what he's like in person. And it is funny, because, he does renovations. He does gorgeous renovations,
Yes.
very talented. But, sometimes too, it's like, okay, but if I'm not getting a renovation right now, then I don't really need to follow this, right? But he is, he's big in South Lyon, and now it's like he's just a part of the community, right? People are watching to see what outfit he's going to wear and what, funny
Yes.
thing he's going to do next. And so then it's like when it is time to do a renovation or someone goes, do you know anyone who does renovations? Like that's the first guy
You
you're
could call
thinking
this guy.
of. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
He's top
I
of
would
mind.
think, I would think, some people would be like, well, I have to be more business-like. I'm a renovation person. But see, he took his personality and stood out with that rather than
Yes.
being like everyone else and saying, I've got to be more business-like.
And this might be the scary part for people, but guess what? People that don't like you are going to not watch his content, and they're not going to call him, right? That's an extremely beneficial thing because there's only so much business that he can do.
Exactly.
Right. And you want to pull in the people that are like, they see him and they're like, they're going to have fun with it. Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Like, as opposed to the people that are like, he shows up and they're judging him and he's not going to win that deal just because
they were never going to hire
they
him.
were never going to hire
Right.
him.
Right. So
Exactly.
it's so true. And that's a good point, right? People are always afraid to like lose followers or weed people out. And it's like, no, that's the goal, right? Because if, again, you're better off with 1,000 raving fans who are going to buy anything that you sell, tell all their friends about you, right? We can weed out these other people.
Yep.
They weren't going to hire us, and we don't, great. We don't need them, right? We don't need them in here because we want to stick with our raving fans and we want to talk more to them. And, when you're posting on social media, you should always be looking at your data and your stats and what's working, right? So we need to just lean even harder into the things that are speaking to our ideal client and not be afraid to turn other people off because they were never going to use you.
Yeah.
And then you're just like muddying your message, right?
You can't be everything to everyone.
No. And if you try, it's so boring.
Yeah. So boring. There's nothing that makes you stand out and differentiate.
You lose like the whole zest, right?
But I think that is the fear of small business owners, or that
5,000%.
is, but I've got to get everybody. And no, you're not going to. It's impossible. So trying to get them to see that you got to niche down, and it's, who are you speaking to is probably one of the hardest things we do.
Yeah. But like you said, and yeah, there's only so many people I can help, right? So why don't I make them my ideal client, my client for life?
Yeah. And then you're in the same boat that we are, where you're like, you're filled by serving those people. You get excited. It's not work, right?
Right. Absolutely. Well, I want to work with my ideal clients. And if there is people that I work with and, it doesn't end up working out, like, that's fine. Like, no hard feelings at all. I wish them success, right? But this wasn't getting either one of us super excited. So that's okay.
Yes. Yeah. That's the best thing, when you can say this isn't a good fit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know. So like, I want to talk about background and how you got here. I know you have a really cool background. And so, how did this really come about, and kind of share your experience?
Yeah. Well, I went to film school. So I always wanted to work in the arts. I always wanted to work in film. I did work in film for many years. I worked in reality TV for many years. So I did casting for reality TV. And a big part of that job, right, you're finding your ideal client. You're finding the perfect person for the show, right, with a unique personality, that sort of fits into this type of thing that you're looking for. And then we were in casting, so we'd be making audition tapes for them. And it's so funny because this was like, 10, 12 years ago. And this is what we were telling them. You need to be yourself. You just need to be more of yourself, right? That's exactly, that was exactly the key, right? If you, so it was finding their superpower. It was finding that what made them unique, and then just making that pop as much as possible.
You're like, do more of that.
Do more of that. Right, exactly. Because, everybody wants to like recognize this archetype, right? So it's like, okay, who you are, we're going to do more of this, right? And I worked on a lot of different kind of shows, so there's always a different vibe. But again, right, it's about, and this is where I learned too, how much people get so scared to be on camera, right? Like, we did a lot of shows for like MTV, so we're looking for these like big personalities, and it'd always be the guy who everyone's like, you have to audition, you're going to be so great, like you're so crazy, and then you put the camera in front of him.
And he's like,
yeah.
Doesn't have anything to say.
Yeah, so we did spend a lot of time disarming people, right? We had to like break down that barrier and that wall of just be yourself, And all these things are going to be edited also. Like every single second's not going to be in there. That's fine. So, I did a lot of that. I did TV. I've done a lot of travel. I'm definitely that person who just jumps, and then I was like, I'll figure it out on the way down. Right. So I came back and I worked in real estate, with my mom, and she's always been an entrepreneur. She's always pushed me to do my own thing. Right. So we just saw a real need. We started out doing transaction coordination because we saw that people really needed this. Right. Real estate's kind of volatile, so it got really slow a couple of years ago. So literally my mom's out talking to people, trying to sell and just having conversations. And she's like, well, what do you need? And they're like, well, I need more business. I really need to be on social media, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how. I don't know how to make videos, right? So literally she just went out and was like, what do you guys need? And this is what they needed. And I was like, this is perfect for me. Right?
I was going to say, you're coming home and telling her this is what we need.
I went back and I said, well, we have a new area of business. And she's like, what? And I said, well, now we're doing social media marketing because we sent you to school for that. We might as well use it.
You're doing it. Yeah. And it was so perfect. We started out doing transaction coordination. We still do that for realtors. So we handle their paperwork. We organize everything. We have a great girl on the team now who heads that up. But that was good. I've just always been a behind the scenes person. So even when we were selling real estate, I was doing that behind the scenes. I was doing that marketing. I was, tracking our metrics, that kind of thing. But when the opportunity came to do, filming, editing, right? I was like, this is right up my alley.
Yeah.
And again, we say about finding your superpower. I've always been on social media. I've always been huge on social media. We used it a ton in casting, right? We did filming, we did editing, all of this. So, what? But that, it took her to be like, no, that's your superpower. That's what you need to be doing.
It's so funny because you're trying to solve, you see a problem and you're solving this problem, but how much did the coordination, how much did that light you up personally?
Not that much. Not that much.
I would be like, please let me out of this. Like, I can't do this anymore.
But it's funny, the girl we have
Anna
doing it
loves
now, it does light her up.
Loves it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
she
exactly
loves
it.
it.
Yeah, we just had we met with some people to talk about what we do. And when it came time to talk about the transaction coordination, it was her turn. She is excited. Systems, processes, programs, organizing, right? That does light her up. So she's perfect for that. And I'm perfect for this.
And that's the really cool thing. And this is all about resources for entrepreneurs. And, as entrepreneurs are listening, like you don't have to be great at everything.
No.
You don't have to, believe it or not, there are people that get excited about the thing that you hate.
Right.
Whether that's organization and process management or creation and all that kind of stuff, or it's creating social media.
Right.
There are people that are really gifted and that's their superpower and that's what lights them up. And so find the resources, find the people that can really unlock that and take that off your plate.
And that's what
Or
she
enhance you.
loves to be in the back office doing things. And I always loved, I taught classes. Like I said, I own fitness clubs. I was in sales. I traveled around the U.S. selling fitness, all that type of thing. And so she's like, Mom, you be on the outside and getting people and talking with people and meeting with people and teaching classes and doing all that. And I will take care of the social media. Anna will take care of the transaction coordination. And it's just worked out beautifully because we took all our strong suits and we ran with it. And my passion is to sit down with people and like you like to, and just talk with them and figure out what they need and find out about them. And I've always loved that. And so, it's worked out great for us.
Well, it's exactly, I teach what you just said, right? Leverage. You're not going to be able to do it all, and this, we started with realtors, who are entrepreneurs, who are running a small business and who are somehow weirdly expected to do everything, right? Like you're great at talking to people, like marketing the house and doing your own taxes. Like it's too, it's like nobody's really great at all of that
And then go
stuff.
create your own content.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's too much. That's where I first saw the need. I was like, these people are doing 800 things. It's not fair, and it's not, there's no way they're excited about all of them. And then I immediately thought, well, I'm not excited about going out and trying to sell this because that's just not my field, So that's why I brought my mom on, right? Because that is her passion. She's great at connecting. She knows everyone. She loves having these conversations. It's easy for her to get to the bottom of, which she does really great. She goes, I just want to get to the bottom of what they need, which is how the social media came about, right? She's going, hey, noticed you're not using us for transactions anymore. What's going on? Well, I don't have any transactions. Oh, well, what do you think's missing in the process, right? So that's her superpower for sure. And then, so I brought on Anna, who, has managed a big team for years. This is her passion. She's great at it. So I'm trying to be my own person of getting leverage and having people do the jobs that are perfect for them.
Because then it opens up more time for you to really focus on your superpower.
Right. Right. 100%.
While the things are growing, you still have this wing of your business.
Yep.
And then you're out selling and building the relationships.
Right. And she needs to be creative all the time. And what's great about our social media and what we offer to our clients is it's unique to them. Like she's not taking everybody's getting the same content. She's focusing it toward each person, which takes a lot of time, a lot of creativity. And that is her superpower, is being creative. And some of the things she comes up with, it's funny because both her dad and I separately have gone through scrolling through social media, and I'll stop and I won't look at what the name, but I'll go, that's awesome. I got to tell Meaghan to use that. And then I'll look up, it's Real Leverage Solutions. And her dad has said that to her too, oh, I almost said you need to use this. And we're like, wow, that was Real Leverage Solutions. And I'm not kidding. We've done that a few times. So
this is her. Okay.
I guess I don't need to tell her. She needs to do that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
That's so awesome. How cool is it to be able to work together?
It's awesome.
Yes.
It's awesome. We don't obviously always get along perfectly, right?
Yeah.
But, it's cool because we really know each other's strengths and weaknesses really well. So I think we're really able to use that, right? And it's great to just be able to do you understand what I'm going through right now? Do you understand what I'm saying? And it's like, yup, so she's able to pick up that slack. I'm able to pick up that slack, right? And I think, you hope to have a relationship like that with your business partner.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you can probably like be going through any kind of day and still be like you have that relationship, right? Where it's like that you can have vulnerable conversations.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yes, 100%. And, you know, I'm sure as you know and talk to people all the time, like being an entrepreneur is hard. It's tough and it's like emotionally tough, you know? So you have to have that support.
Yeah.
And
Can be lonely.
It can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, because people don't understand. So being an entrepreneur, and she really comes from a family of entrepreneurs. Both my brothers had their own businesses and stuff. So we can understand and support her. And, you know, I'm really here to support her, and I'm a proud mom because she is really making this business grow. And like you said, you've heard some great things, and it's because we're really passionate about it. So, and we love this community, you know, so.
Yeah, what a great community to be a part of.
Absolutely. Yes.
A great entrepreneur community.
oh yeah, really, I mean, we have a podcast studio, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, the day that I drove by and I'm like, is that a podcast studio going in? Like, this changes the game.
Got to get in there.
Yeah, we have a podcast studio, right? And this is my third time here, right? So I know so many entrepreneurs around here, and you know, it is cool, and it's a really supportive community, I think. You know, even I have a lot of clients that are in the same industry, you know, and they're all working together, they're collaborating, they're networking, they're lifting each other up, and that's huge.
I look at things like I'm in that abundance mindset as opposed to like, oh my God, we're doing the same thing, or like we're, you know, because there's collaboration, but then to the point, like we're not everybody's cup of tea. Someone that might not like me would really fit in with like you guys, for example, or just vice versa. Like even like Wayne Media, they have their own thing, right? And their own client base they're working with.
Well, it's like as realtors, if we have, you know, we need an inspector for a client or something like that, we give them 3 because you might not jive with, you know, or a lender, you know, there's 3 different or 4 different because their personality might not jive with yours. So you might not work well together. So the same thing with our industry and what we do. And
well, you know, one of my best friends actually does something very similar. So she does a little bit more on like the website side and that kind of thing, but she has her own marketing business as well. And we've both given each other clients, right? You know, where I went, hey, this person is not for me, but this would be, you know, I know that would be great for her. Yeah. And vice versa, right? Yeah. Because, you know, everybody does things differently and people want different things, and that's okay.
I just sent her someone the other day.
Right. Yeah. I said, because I said this would be perfect for her.
Yeah. Yeah. It's again, I love the collaborations, and not one of us is going to save the world, but I look at like Livingston County and like the collection of resources, like having this place to be able to do podcasts, having you all to create content and get themselves out, like me in just different spaces. Like, let's make this county just kill it, be the top county in Michigan, right? For entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
I've always like having that mentality of like, there's plenty of business for everyone, like has always like worked out for the best, you know, anytime that I've come from like a place of, oh, I want to keep this to myself, or, you know, that doesn't lift you up. Right. And that there is plenty of business for everyone. And if there's not, we'll create it. Right.
We'll create it. People always like, taking people through sales a lot. They'll be like, well, what if I tell everybody this and then they go copy my idea? Like, one, they're probably not. Yeah. Like I've learned that there's a very low path of least resistance.
Yes.
I had a mentor that like we would go to these conventions and you'd tell everybody, like they'd pick his brain and you'd tell him everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, why do you do that? Like, why do you tell them like everything that we do? And he's like, well, a couple of things. He's like, one, they're probably not going to do it. 2, if they do it, great. He was like, they're not our competitor. They're, you know, like I look at that as like it helps us raise the game for our industry, right? Absolutely. Like it helps us raise the bar. And when you look at like marketing and creating content, I love how much we are aligned with like, let's find your superpower. Let's be authentic and vulnerable, because I see a lot of cookie cutter programs, a one size fits all. And I love how your mindset is like everybody is different.
Everybody's different. Yeah.
I've had so many clients that have brought to me their 10 marketing plans they've had, and all of them were these cookie cutter, and they just didn't do any of them. They spent so much money on it and didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. I think probably when you work with us, the most painful part is the onboarding, because I do like, you have to answer a lot of questions, and I want to get down into the nitty gritty, and I want to know like who, and it's sometimes, they answer all the questions and who their ideal client is and what their brand voice is. And then, if I know them personally, sometimes I'm like, that's not who your ideal, actually that's who you think your ideal client is, right? But it's not, we've got to start answering those questions and looking at that. And I did this, we did this in this business where, we had an idea of who our ideal client was. And then when we start working with people in that, we're like, oh, actually we were off the mark on some of this, right?
Yeah. Well, you look at every great company, they start off in one way and they really get to know who their clients are and what their struggles are. You look at Apple. Apple, right, starts off in computers, but now if you think about them, it's like the phones. It went to MP3 players, it went to phones. They constantly innovated in finding the things that their customers wanted.
Amazon sold books. Right?
Right.
So you cannot.
Now there's not anything you can't find on Amazon.
Yeah. Right. They start, exactly. But he didn't go, well, we sell books, so we can't change.
No.
And he said, oh, what do people need? What do my clients need? They don't really need books. They need these other things, right? And
and companies that don't change aren't here anymore.
I was going to say, you're right in the same.
Yeah.
Well, you could be Blockbuster. You could be Netflix, right?
Yeah. And Blockbuster was offered to buy Netflix.
And they said no.
No.
Yeah. And you've got to go with the times. You've got to move on and be able to pivot. And
well, it's risky. You got to go, I'm going to jump off and see what you have to, and that's, I do always say you need to get your reps in, right? So it's like, okay, you got to just, start by jumping off little cliffs, what's the worst that could happen? And then, you build that muscle to where you're like, let's just try it. What's the worst that could happen? Usually the worst that could happen is that like you get embarrassed. Like, who cares?
Who cares? Yeah.
And the more you do this, you don't get as embarrassed anymore.
Right.
It's like, hey, you know what? I tried it and, but when we first started, it was.
It was huge for me, so that's why I wanted to spend so much time behind the scenes, but you got to get out in front if you want to grow. And so I said, I'm just going to start saying yes to everything. And then it's not going to be that hard.
Doing the podcast, like you said, doing it over and over again. And then it's like, it's what you do.
Yes.
Right.
I bet it's different than your first one, right?
It's different than your first one. Absolutely. Yeah. Making that sale, having that first phone call, first phone call of the day even is like the shaky one.
Absolutely.
And then you keep going. And by the end of the day, you just really adjusted it. When I've worked with salespeople and they've got this script they have in front of them and they're like really like, they spent an hour just practicing this script. It's like, just make the call. Like
just make the
you're
call.
not even going to say that.
So much lead up. Yeah.
And the call doesn't always go how you thought it was going to go. So you just kind of start having conversations,
90% of the time it doesn't go how you planned it. Like you're really lucky if it goes how you planned it. It never goes that way.
I found that many times, yes.
Like, did you think when you were going out and asking your clients what they needed that they would be like, we need more social media?
I didn't even have that in mind. That wasn't even anything we were doing. It just came to me because it was when, interest rates were going up and I was meeting with realtors at the time because, again, we started with realtors and then we pivoted to small businesses because that came to us. We had got recommended by a couple small businesses and they reached out to us. But I did not have social media. It wasn't even a thing with us. But, I knew she was very creative and had a marketing background. So, the conversation just grew and grew. And I was, they were, I would love to use you guys. I know you guys are great at what you do with TC, but, transaction coordination, but I don't have any clients. And it just hit me that, why aren't we helping you get new clients? So thinking of Meaghan's marketing background just came to me during the conversation. Like you say, it never goes. I was there to sell them TC and get them on board for that. And she signed up right away and said yes. And she's still our client and, happy as can be with that. And then after I met each person, after that, I would say, how is your marketing? And people really needed that. There was a big need with realtors because like we were just saying, they have to wear all those hats, so many different hats, and they weren't doing the marketing and they were afraid. If you're not into that, how do you know, and as realtors we're, cold calls and, door knocking, which is great. But now we always tell people with social media, you're in front of thousands. and you're not knocking on their door, bothering them or calling them when they don't want to answer, they're choosing to look at you and what you're putting out there. So they really grabbed onto that. And yeah, that's how this all started. So
That's awesome. You answered my next question. I was going to say, like, okay, so you see the solution. Now what? Because it seems like you have some people teed up. It seems like it's their easy conversations to just call up people and say, hey, this person had this problem. Are you?
Yes. And we talk about, in our social media about that problem. And, we've got a lot of different things we can draw from that people have, said, because like we said, with being an entrepreneur, it's tough. And, you're doing so many things. So taking different things off their plate, such as marketing, which is a big thing. And I know how many hours it takes Meaghan to be creative and think of, each person and what they need. So for them to have to take that time to be creative and do all that was hard. So that's where that came.
Especially when that's not their superpower.
That's not their superpower. Their superpower is selling homes and talking with people and meeting with, all that type of thing. So
how often do you see people beating themselves up because they can't just make that happen?
a lot.
Well, yeah. And I think that is like an entrepreneur thing, right? Where you're like, but I'm not great at this. I'm not great at this, and it just goes back to, you're not going to be great at everything, and if you were like kind of good at everything, then you're not focusing on that thing you're awesome at, which is what you should be doing. I've been saying that since we started with TC, and I'm saying this now, with marketing, where it just, yes, focus on the thing you're good at. If you love marketing and you are a very creative realtor, then you're probably not that good at the paperwork, and we can help with that too.
I love it.
So, you're probably out there making videos and you're like, oh, I'm not checking my email, right? So we can help on that end as well.
That's awesome. Because you're right. The creative person is not going to be the person.
Probably not that
end.
organized. Yeah. Or they don't want to sit in front of the computer or whatever. So.
How many people, when you sit down with them, don't believe that they have a story?
Like all of them. I'm telling you, all of them. I'm sure right? Yeah. And again, that's why, I learned, when I started, I didn't have this questionnaire, and then over time it just got longer and longer and longer because I was like, no, this is what I need to know. This so I can see what their superpower is, and I can tell them to tell more of it, right?
Yep.
And a lot of times, like a lot of entrepreneurs are dual career, where they have something they used to do and now they do this, or they have something that's a passion, and people never want to like mix those two things, like they never want to say, well, I used to be a hairstylist and then I did this, but I built all these contacts while I was doing, they never want to bring up the other thing. Right. And, that's like I worked in film, right. And I could say, well, I don't work in film anymore, but it's like, okay, but that's my bet. That informs so much of what I do.
Absolutely.
And so don't be afraid to like connect, like I run this business, but I'm really into Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, talk about it. Like, talk about yourself.
Yes.
It's okay to say who you are. And people, let's all look to Jim Segge, right? And say, hey, I'm going to take it. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to put it out there. And people do connect with that. We can use him as an example.
Because we always say your ideal client is someone that's similar to you.
Yes.
Likes what you like.
Yes.
And so when we are creating their ideal client with them, their avatar, we're saying, okay, let's get real specific because they are probably similar to you. And let's take a realtor, for example. If you're putting out marketing for real estate, I'm not ready to buy a home, but if you have, a Siamese cat like I do, or you like to exercise or something, and you're putting a little bit of that out there too, I'm connecting with you. When I'm ready to buy a home, guess who's top of mind? Right?
Absolutely.
So I don't know that you're top of mind, but all of a sudden I want to sell a home and I'm like, oh, I'm going to call so-and-so, So
yes,
absolutely. That's what we
want. Because you
relate to them.
And like people buy because of emotion, right? Like
yeah.
Most of their decisions are made on emotion. So it could be just as simple as they like you the best, right? Yeah. You're the most likable one. You're the most like them. And it's as easy as that.
And you look at our industry, and I love it's real estate that you've did a lot of work in, because there's so many of them. How do they stand out?
Right.
I always joke when you go to a networking meeting and you're, what do? I'm in real estate. But, oh, great. What makes you different than that other person I just talked to? And it's the same stuff. Oh, I got the great best lending. I've got the, they tell you features and benefits. Then hardly anybody then goes into the story.
Sure.
Of what makes them different. Just a quick little story.
Yeah. And that is why, like, you do need to identify your superpower, and you do need to be more of yourself, right? Because that's what's going to make you stand out. And it makes your life easier. Like when you're like, oh, people have a hard time making content. And it's like, well, really? Because if you were talking about yourself, you'd have plenty to talk about, and even when we're selling our business and I meet with people now and like I've gotten past that, oh, I'm super nervous. I really want to put forward this kind of like super professional face. That's not really what it's like to work with me. It's very like laid back, it's conversational and all of that. So now that I'm just embraced, being myself, it's so easy. If someone goes, well, I'm not interested, it's like, oh, okay, that's no problem, right?
Absolutely.
Like obviously we weren't going to be a good fit, no big deal.
No big deal. When I first started my business, I had this video where I put out and I was just super pumped. I was at the barber shop and I taught a guy. The barber told me he sucks at remembering people's names, and that's like one of my things. I love getting interview with people. Like the number one reason why we don't remember people's names is because we're thinking about what we're going to say while they're introducing themselves. We didn't even hear their name. It's not even about remembering their name. We didn't even hear it, because I'm like thinking what I'm going to say next. We're in our heads if you think about it.
Yes.
And so I'm taking them through this strategy, and then we practiced, and we ended up getting the whole barber shop was in on it. And it was just like a fun experience. And so my son was at basketball practice, and I decided to make this video. And so I pulled this video, and I'm still going through. And then at the end, I was just really pumped up, and I was like, I dropped an F-bomb, and I was like, have a fucking great weekend, blah, blah, blah. And so this guy calls me that I knew, and he's like, hey, Jason, I saw that video. That was an awesome video, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, thanks. And he was like, he was like, you went and ruined it at the end and you dropped that F-bomb, and you're a professional and you're better than that. And you should really look at making sure that you don't portray yourself like that. And I really took it to heart for about 2 days. And then I was like, fuck that. Because if I'm now working with a client and we're talking and I'm passionate, I might drop an F-bomb.
Yeah.
And if that offends you, like, I'm sorry. Yeah. I've misadvertised myself.
Yes. That's it exactly, right? That's it exactly. And what do you cannot go, oh, wait a minute, I got to slip into this persona, right?
Right.
Because that
who do I got to be today?
Yeah, that's going to make it impossible.
It's exhausting.
And that is why people have such a hard time coming up with content, because they're literally writing a script for a different person in their head. When it's like, really, no, just talk about yourself. And this is, I will sit down with people and they'll go, well, what should we talk about? We should talk about you. Well, no, but really, let's talk. Tell a story. Hey, did you recently close a sale and you helped somebody? Tell that story. Hey, did you recently lose a sale because of something you did wrong? Tell that story.
Yeah.
Did you start off working with one kind of client and you switched because you worked with this family? And tell that story. Like, it's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. I'll have people will come to me and they'll say, oh, I had this sales call and this person started telling me this thing. And I just can't stop thinking about them. And I missed my opportunity. I didn't say this. And I didn't ask them this question. I was like, so call them and tell them that. Mm-hmm. They're like, what? And I'm like, that you can't stop thinking about them, that they said this one thing and it makes you really curious because you want to know, and then ask them the question. Yeah. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, that's the most authentic thing you can be.
They're like, can I do that? Like, and you're like, yeah,
absolutely.
Do I have permission?
And then people are like, people every time I ever think of somebody, like if I've thought of somebody a couple times, I'll shoot them a message because there's a reason why I'm thinking about you. Yeah. And so I'll shoot them a message. I thought about you a couple times. And people are like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you. Or it always leads to a really good conversation. But if I'm like specifically, like you said this one thing, Meaghan, when we talked, and I can't stop thinking about it. Can I know more about this? Mm-hmm. Are you going to be mad?
No, I'm going to be excited.
People love to talk about themselves. Yeah.
People love talking about themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They love talking about themselves.
Absolutely. So they're not going to be upset if you ask them about that.
We make it so hard sometimes.
We do.
Well, I literally learned so much from my clients doing this because I do have them in a really vulnerable situation, right? And so I do hear a lot of their like fears and concerns and that kind of thing. And so the more I'm telling them, you need to be authentically yourself. You need to tell your story. It's like, oh, okay.
You're hearing it in your head.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to do it too.
If you want to see a different side of a person, put a camera in front of them because their personality is usually the opposite of what somebody quiet is. More like they've got it, they're doing it, and they say it one take wonder, we call them. Yeah. And then other people that are really loud, you get the camera in front of them, they're like, okay, I'm not sure what to do or say. So it's kind of interesting, that we're all just human.
Yep.
But that's okay. It's okay to not be a one take wonder.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
I'm editing it. So, you know, I always tell people too, like if it takes you 20 times, like typically when I do my own videos, it takes me like 20 times.
Yes.
So wait, I forgot to say that. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't like that, you know, so
Yep.
that's okay too. It's okay to not be a one take wonder, but you do get better over time and you just care less.
You care less.
Yeah, sometimes we have to say, we'll show you our bloopers because they're so self-conscious.
When we film together, we just laugh our asses off. Like we literally would be like,
Yeah.
I'd be like, you have to be serious now.
Yeah. Or she'll say, read me the line. That's not the line. And because I'm laughing too hard, I'm reading the wrong line to her.
Have you ever put out a bloopers reel?
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen it yet. Okay. I was gonna say those would kill it.
Yeah. I do them for my clients sometimes too, and those always do. People love a blooper reel. People love a behind the scenes.
Yes.
People love like, oh, what are you doing? And it's like, I'm getting coffee and I'm drinking it. Like that's what I'm saying. Like people are so overthinking this,
Right?
You know?
Yes.
Because for years they were more produced and more had to be perfect. Now people don't want to see that anymore.
Well, you also couldn't just use your phone. Like now it couldn't be any easier. And I'm telling you, if you said, hey, you know, I'm Jason Tracy. I mean, you don't have to even introduce. You're getting your coffee. Hey, this is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Those do great. People love to see what you're doing.
It's insane on TikTok, and my wife has been on it for a long time, just watching people do their lives, and they're just having conversation. There's this one lady that she watches that has a like a coffee truck, like a food truck, but she serves coffee out in Canada, and she just like sets her phone up and serves her clients all day long and just runs these lives.
Like
they just see her interacting like with her clients, and the way that she cares for them and talks to them, and people are. She's created these regulars, and Gracie will just watch it for like 30 minutes.
Funny.
Like
I know.
watching this video.
It's like you can't stop.
You can't stop.
Yes.
But like, in those people are killing it. They're not worrying about what they're taught. They're just going out and then they're being themselves, and it's pulling people in.
Yeah.
Well, we taught a class the other day, or Meaghan. Oh, go ahead and tell it. Yeah.
Oh, I just taught this class. It was about marketing your listings, and I taught it to realtors. And I was really nervous to teach this class. It was like an auditorium. Like I did not, but I was like, you know what? Let's just go. Right.
Yeah.
Next time it'll be easier. So,
Out of her comfort zone.
Yeah. I said, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to say yes to as many classes as I can so that this becomes like a non-issue.
Yep.
But so I asked like the audience, and I was like, what kind of videos do you guys watch? Like what videos do you watch that you can't put down? And so one girl raises her hand. She goes, well, it's so weird. I watch this lady who just makes food in her kitchen. Like she just makes lunch for her family. And it's really weird. Like I'm not that into cooking or anything, but anytime it's on, I can't stop watching it, you know? So I'm like, okay, so she makes content every day about making lunch for her family. You can't stop watching it, and you're like overthinking, right? Like, okay, go to your listing and make lunch. Hey, say, hey, if you lived here, this is what you could make for lunch in your kitchen, right? It could be as simple as that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We overthink it.
Oh yeah, we totally overthink it, and also, it's like a blip. Also, you know, it's not. I think people do have this idea in their head, like you know. We're not like filming on film, and it's, you know, we don't have to get it right first time, right? It's a little blip. If it does great, that's awesome. If it does terrible, that's also awesome, because now you have some data, right? Okay, this one didn't work. Let me try a little bit different, or say something different at the beginning, or, you know.
I had a client, I asked him what his biggest fear was about creating the content. And he's like, that nobody will watch it. And I'm like, great, let's pretend nobody's watching it then.
Yeah.
You know,
then you should be all comfortable,
let's
right?
do it. Like, what do you have to fear about then? Let's go.
Right. And that's what's so funny. It's like, that's the worst thing that could happen.
That's the worst thing that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it could happen.
It happens
like I
all the
told him,
time.
like it could happen. Like
Yep.
nobody watch it.
If you're not, I mean, like if you're not failing, you're not doing enough, right?
Right.
So, you know, if you're not putting out so much content that sometimes nobody's watching it, like.
How many attempts did it take Edison to make the light bulb?
Yes. I forget that, but I have listened to
I don't know
many
either, but it's a
times.
lot.
Ways that wouldn't work,
Yeah.
right? But it's so, you know, the biggest entrepreneurs are always like fail faster, right? Because you need data. And I tell people that too. If we got started on social media, I get to know you and that, but I don't know your ideal audience yet. So we're going to put out a mix of all kinds of things because we want to see what's resonating, what's sticking, what are they watching, what are they not watching, right? So that we are tailoring our stuff more towards them. But we need to, see what are the duds, right? And even then, sometimes it's just like a simple tweak. Like, you know, maybe you're just saying a hook at the beginning, and then maybe you're saying it slightly different. Or maybe it's a negative hook, you're making it a positive one. Or maybe you're saying, instead of you're saying people, you say you or I, right? So maybe you just need to like, it could be as simple as that.
But the action creates reaction. Like when you go out and you take action, and I've heard you say it, or you both say it, and I've seen it in my clients too. You're planning, they plan for perfection. They want to be certain that it's going to take off. In fact, the matter is, most likely it's not going to go viral. Especially on your first one.
Yes,
right.
I love sharing my very first video I made. I love every year when it pops up in my Facebook.
And
I love sharing
difference.
it because it's like, look at this.
Yes.
For all the people that are nervous, like watch me. I'm throwing up in my mouth the whole entire time.
Exactly.
All the people that now tell me I'm a natural, watch this. This was not natural. Like
They
it took
never
practice over and over again.
They say when someone's successful, you didn't see behind the scenes the million times they missed the mark, and now you think they're perfect or they're successful, but no, it took a lot of practice to get like that. So, and even if like we say it goes viral, that's great. Like we have an attorney that we do social media for, and you have to make that kind of sexy. Like he does wills and business law and stuff, and but he's a young, good-looking guy, so we use that. And he likes, and his assistant is a young girl, and she does axe throwing and different things. So we're like, let's play up on all that. You guys are young. Usually you think attorneys are stuffy, especially a business law and that. So we play up on that. But, they've had something go viral before, and, we're like, oh, that's great. Those aren't your ideal clients, but hey, you got out there. But that's only going to happen once in a great while, and it's fun. But we definitely want to speak on a regular basis to your ideal client, so, but they have fun with it, and it shows, and that's why we can make wills and business law look fun and, sexy. So, yeah.
What's your thought on this around content? I think the hardest thing to do as an entrepreneur when we're in sales is for our client or our prospect to see us as humans, like we're selling something, right? And I think even us, we internalize that. We maybe emphasize it and make it even bigger in our head. But for the most part, clients see us as objects, or that person that's like selling something, or then you go out and you create that content, and it creates that no-like trust. They get to see you, they get to see your personality and all that kind of stuff. How do you, as clients are out in their, real estate agents, for example, they're at a chamber outing and stuff like that. How do you help them? How do you see their social media aiding in what they're doing when they're out doing the in-person stuff or creating real-life relationships?
Well, again, I think it's super important to be hyper-local, and I always push people to, everything is content, right? If you're at a chamber meeting, take a picture, tag the chamber, right? Yes. Tell people, hey, I'm here at this restaurant, tag the restaurant, show yourself as part of the community, right? If you're a realtor, we expect, show me the best coffee shop in town, okay? Ooh, yeah. Show me where you go to dinner when you go out, talk about the events that happen, right? So you are a part of the community and a resource now. And, I think realtors have a tough time because they're almost seen, it's almost like a used car salesman type of thing. It's like, oh, there's so many of them, and they're all trying to sell me something, right?
Yep.
But you need to be a resource, and you need to be giving them things that they can use all the time. A lot of mine, I have a lot of people do like home ownership tips, right? Like they've bought the home now, but we're still here for you. We're still helping you. We're still a resource for you, so that when it's time to move again, or their neighbor's going to move, or their friend is going to move, that kind of thing.
You're staying relevant in there to them.
You're giving them stuff that's still useful to them. It's not like, okay, well, you bought the house, so I don't, it's, it should be a long-term relationship.
Being in sales my whole career is like when somebody would come into my location, it was like, what salesperson did you work with? I don't know. He sits over there, or she sits over there, or whatever, I hated that. Like we didn't do a good enough job to for them to remember us and stand out. But now we have that tool, and we talk about like social media and how it's rise that this is the greatest resource, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you have all these things going on, to be able to get out there to a whole wild world, to find your market, to talk directly to your people, to tell your story. It's so powerful. And then you're out and about. Now invite them in, right?
Yeah. Right.
If I'm at any event and I meet people, I grab their card and I just connect with them on Facebook. Absolutely. Because then I pull them into my active machine of my content. Into my world.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What people always say about us are like, do you guys do something like 24/7 every day? And it's like, well, no, but anytime I do something, I do post about it, right? And even if it's just to push something else that someone has going on.
Yeah.
And I think you touched on this earlier about like giving stuff away. I think as an entrepreneur, you should give stuff away, and you should feel good about it, because you know what it happens when, like, if I gave away my entire process and everything that I do, which I would happily do right now, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And if you try to do it, you're going to go, oh, wow, this is worth paying for.
That's
Right.
exactly it. That's exactly it. Is there are very few people that are like the DIY, like I'll learn what you're telling me in this, in this training, and then I'll go and do it myself. A lot of people, again, they're in that seat. They're wearing all the hats. They're doing all the things. It's just so much easier to take that off their plate. This podcast, I was doing it by myself with a GoPro and,
Right.
and like having to manage the camera and all that content, to then having the conversation. This is so much easier now just to show up
It's
and have
so
the
worth
conversation.
paying for, right?
It's so worth paying for.
So you can't be like, well, don't look behind the curtain. The magic happens back here. Cause people's first instinct is I could do that. Right.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, you can.
Go
for
try,
sure.
go try
Yeah,
to do
go
it
try
though. And
Yeah.
then decide if it's worth, and maybe some people will say, wow, but that's like, it's not very common. Usually people go, oh, okay, I see why it costs what it costs and I'm going to pay for it because it is a lot of work.
Yes. Yeah. The client that revamped her job descriptions and stuff like that, one of the questions she had for me is like, do you think I'm going to be able to grow my business if I bring you on and we get more if I get more people placed? And I was like, well, what's your superpower? Like when you meet somebody, when you meet up new clients and you're out there, like what's your close, how many of them do you close that you talk to? And she's like 90%. I'm like, then you need to have more conversations.
Right.
Right.
If you're closing 90% and I can
There's
free
always
up your
something.
time by
Yes.
getting the right people that you don't have to worry about firing
That's
every
what you
5
should be out
days,
there doing is having conversations.
you need to be having the conversations.
Yes.
And if you're out having those conversations and you're closing at 90% of the conversations that you're having, this is not rocket science. That you have more time to have more conversations
Right.
that your
Yeah.
business will
Exactly.
grow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yes.
guess that makes sense.
Yes.
Same with realtors, right? You need to be out and having conversations, and you either if you're not great at the paperwork, then you really don't need to be sitting in front of the computer for hours. Someone can do that for you, or you don't need to be creating content 24/7. Someone can do that for you, right?
Yes.
You need to be talking to people, and you need to be guiding them and helping them. They want one-on-one from you, right? And if you're being pulled in 10 different directions, then you're not really giving them the super amazing treatment that you're known for, right?
Exactly.
Plus, if you don't do it, like you're not a marketer, you're not, you don't do transactions or whatever it may be, you're a small business and you don't do marketing, that's going to take you twice as long, right? So that's the other thing where,
I love that you brought that up. Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's then tying back home and it's your experience and all the work that you've put in, and like your experiences on on the shows, but like what you've had to do to generate and pull in traffic on social media. So all your extensive experience with social media, they can't get that from reading a book.
Right.
Yes.
They can't get that from watching a YouTube video.
Right.
Right.
And so you can go and try and you can create, but would you want to get there faster?
Right.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
And if it's not lighting you up, then hire it out.
Exactly.
I used to sit down with clients when I had a fitness club, and they'd come in and I'd say, I don't expect you to train yourself, because I had personal trainers there, and because I don't go into the dentist and fill my own tooth. It was a silly thing, but I would say that because I'm not trained to do that, right?
funny.
And
Yeah.
it's silly, but they'd laugh at it and
They
they'd go,
get it.
absolutely, I don't work out. I don't know what I'm doing. It's the same with marketing. I'm not a marketer. I don't know what I'm doing. I could learn, but that's going to take me hours.
Yeah.
If I have a professional, it's worth having them do it. And I think people don't realize that when you're an entrepreneur, you are counting every dime and you're worried about where money's going and all that kind of stuff. But that's where you do need to sit down and figure out, okay, what is going to be most beneficial
Yes.
to my business
Yeah.
that I hire out, right? Because
Yep.
then I save time. And if she's marketing me so that more eyes are seeing me, then I'm out talking to people and it's all working together. How am I not going to grow my business, right?
Yeah. And, I think I got this from my dad, but, what's your time worth, right? So if your time's worth $1,000 an hour, why are you doing $100 an hour tasks?
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely. Your time is more valuable than that, especially when it's not your expertise.
Exactly. Yes.
I think one thing about social media, I love social media. I think it's such a great, amazing tool. But there is that, sort of the dark side of social media where people
Absolutely.
think, so easy for them. They're an overnight success. I need to have 1 million followers in order to see success. I just need to buy this one thing for $10.99 and it's going to,
Yeah.
and it's like, you just can't get sucked into all that, right? That's the highlight reel. That's and again, I think that is why these authenticity, vulnerable videos do so well, because you go, oh my God, thank God, I also was struggling. I thought I was the only one.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, when you say that, it adds a different level to your relationships. It's pretty intense how great it can be.
Yeah.
Because again, I think people are tired of they have everything and look at their life. It's because it's not real. That's not real.
No.
And it doesn't make you feel great.
Exactly. But then there's a balance too. And even when you're being vulnerable, it's not the constant like, poor me.
No, that is a really good point, right? It's not, it's your story,
it's
right?
Your story.
So it's not always ups, it's not always downs. And, you're not going to follow someone who's like, okay, this is what's going on today, right? But again, that's why it's like so important to measure, what do you watch? What do you like? What are you attracted to? What are you hitting like on? What's it, and then kind of use that to inform some of your own strategy, right? Well, I'm watching this lady make lunch every day, so how could I, maybe I should do some behind the scenes content, right?
Exactly. What is it that you do? Maybe it's not lunch.
Sure,
maybe it's something else that you do
that
nobody knows.
And I don't think people think of that, like when they're making content, like we always try to point that out and they always look like, oh, wow, what are you stopping to look at?
Yes.
Why aren't you thinking of that before you create your content, So what interests you probably interests your ideal client. So
again, I think they're trying to paint that persona, right? And they have this like, oh, okay, well, I'm a realtor. Maybe I have to do this like selling sunset thing, right? But then they're watching someone like crochet socks, and it's like, okay.
It's going to be too boring,
Right, but it's like, no, it's not. And I think TikTok really taught us that behind the scenes, just raw, this is what people are doing, that people are really, really attracted to that.
And I love, and this has come up several times, but most people's ideal client is them. Mm-hmm. How many times do you see like the light bulb go off when you break that to somebody?
Oh, all the time.
All the time. That is huge. That is like
they don't realize it. It's so crazy.
They don't realize it.
Well, I think people do. Like entrepreneurs are scared to even get an ideal client because they just feel like that automatically like excludes everyone else, and especially if you're in like a service-based business, you're like, well, I have to take everyone. I have to take everyone, which is fine. You can take everyone, But hopefully, ideally, you started your own business so you could work with people you really like to work with and enjoy. So let's just try to get more of those. Let's talk to them. And if that happens to weed out people that we don't really have a great time working with, like that's okay.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't it be easier to close someone on a sale that really likes you and can relate to you than trying to reach to somebody that doesn't?
One, who better can you help than people like you?
Exactly.
You get it. You get them to some level,
been
right?
there.
Exactly.
You've been
Yeah,
there.
you've had those. Basically, your ideal client is like you in the future, or
in the
you in the
past.
past. I mean, yeah. So that's your ideal client, right? And you're going to say, "This is what I did." Yeah.
I was working with this guy who was like, before COVID, and he was like telling me about his coaching. Like we were going through a coaching session, and he was beginning this coaching program. We went through his whole entire story, and like we're boiling it down. And I was like, so this is what I'm hearing. Your target client is in their 50s. They just went to work and didn't got in the rat race and didn't have any passion in their job, and they've been spending their whole life to saying there's more. And he's like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, does that person look familiar? And he was like, no. And I was like, that person is you. And he was like, oh my God, it is.
Light bulb.
It's like so fun when you break it to him. Like, oh my God. Because then it's like, you see so much more clearly when you can identify psychologically with who it is your target audience is.
Yeah, it's not so confusing.
Yeah, and so much of, this like sales is really just having people look at things a little bit differently, right?
Yes, it's all narrative.
Yeah.
Shifting your perspective.
Yeah.
Because when I sit down with people to talk about real leverage solutions, I sit down with them and figure out what are they looking to do and just really ask them questions that will open their eyes. And I, like you said, I love when their eyes start to open and they're like, wow, this isn't so hard. I mean, and then they do feel passion and they get more excited because, I think entrepreneur is kind of like a roller coaster, right? So just sitting down with them and asking them those questions. And I think in sales, it's really being a listener.
5,000%.
Yeah.
I say it all the time, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yes.
Oftentimes we think we have to talk.
You think you have to sell what you're trying to sell instead of like listen to what they need.
Yep.
And once you know what they need, if I can fill that, I'm here. If I can't, I probably know somebody. That's another great thing about our business and being with so many entrepreneurs. I probably know somebody that can fill that. So we get to connect people all the time. That's another reason. And that's kind of my passion. Like I get excited about that. I have always loved building someone else's business up and connecting people. And Meaghan I'll always say that, and she's like, I know, Mom, you're always saying this person, I introduce this person. And that's what's fun about it is because we all grow together, but it is just really sitting down and listening to people. And I think that is so important. Like you said, people forget they get introduced. I forgot your name because I was thinking about what I was going to say. And I really try to back myself up and just say, let me listen and let's see how I can connect with them. There's probably something I can connect with them on, and then I can see if I can help them. So.
One, it's huge, and I love how you ended on that because it is the truly listening, and it even goes back to you had a business that was doing the processes and doing this whole management of a system, and you weren't afraid to go out there and ask the question because there is a certain amount of fear there of what are they going to say. And can I give it to them, right? Mm-hmm. And so as you're going out there and you're asking the question because you just truly want to help, that's really what it's all about as entrepreneurs. If we go out there and just truly listen to our people because we truly want to serve them, I'd say sales is serving people at the highest level, and it's because of that.
Absolutely.
It's because of that mentality. But then you're like, wow, this is like the sign from the universe, right? Like in the sense of like more marketing, light bulb.
Absolutely,
we need more. Whoa, Meaghan, like, and we have this thing, and that's to me the this is like episode 204, and it's like the common ground that of people that I've had on the difference makers that I've had on is they found a way to solve a problem for people like themselves, or they've found a way to solve a problem for people, and that's what you two are building. But it's so cool when we can take our passion and our purpose and combine that with the way that we solve problems for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%.
It's so much more powerful that way.
Yeah.
And fun.
It's fun. Yeah.
It is
exactly.
fun.
And it's like you said, it doesn't feel like work because you're excited to get up and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Meaghan and Lori, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Yeah.